Hello, I'm Dr. Vanita Rattan from the Hyperpigmentation Clinic. So as you know, I'm the world's only doctor who's also a cosmetic formulator specifically for skin of color. This whole channel is dedicated to skin of color, and my aim is really to go through as many brands as I can for you and dissect the ingredients list and let you know which ones you should be buying and which ones you should be avoiding. As you know, none of my videos have ever been sponsored and they never will be sponsored. This is purely an evidence-based channel for skin of color. I think it's very important for us because we really don't have anywhere else to go to know what's good for our skin. And I'm making this channel not just for us, but also our children. As our children's skin develops, it's important that they know what they should be using, how to use it, and the mistakes that they should be avoiding. So I've treated over 40,000 cases of pigmentation in skin of color with a 95% success rate at the Hyperpigmentation Clinic, and you can follow me on Instagram and ask me questions about your pigmentation. But basically what happened was when I first started out, I'd actually done 2 degrees. I did medicine and I did physiology, pharmacology. And one issue that I was facing over and over again from friends, from family, was pigmentation for skin of color. And when you are the doctor in the family, a lot of people will ask you, all about their ailments, and this one kept coming up. And when I started researching it, the thing that really shocked me, to be honest, was that every single professional grade treatment in the world was designed in the West. The trials were done on Caucasian skin. It was made for Caucasian skin. So things like high strength glycolic acid, TCA peels, laser hydroquinone was all designed in the West by Caucasians. And at the time, the cohort of the population were also Caucasian. Now, the difference is with skin of color, our skin is very different. We physically can't use the same ingredients that Caucasians can use. The reason being that if with us, one scratch, one bite, one burn, and we hyperpigment. We cannot afford to have any irritation on our skin. And so these treatments, the side effects were PIH, more pigmentation. And it honestly didn't make sense to me. I thought, what's the point of doing a treatment when the outcome can be worse than the actual, with what you started off with before the treatment? And so I remember going to my parents, and they had their own cosmetic laboratory. And I put it out to them and I said, I really want to create the world's first professional grade treatment for pigmentation for skin of color. And I just need a laboratory for 6 months, and I'm sure I'll be able to achieve this in 6 months. Of course, I was wrong. It took me 5 years. I failed many times and over a long period of time. And the reason is there was actually no data on percentage actives that skin of color can tolerate. So I ended up actually having to do the first ever trials, and actually to date the only trials that have ever been done for ingredient percentages for skin of color. So for example, I would have a cohort of 30 skin of color candidates. I'd make them a cream with 1% retinol in it, and I'd see how their skin reacted over a 30 to 60 day period. And I would then go back and I'd do a fraction of that. I'd then create a cream for 0.5% retinol, 0.3% retinol. And I did this for every single active. That was the only way for me to discover what percentage our skin can tolerate of every single active. Then I had to combine those ingredients in a stable form for skin of color. And that's why to date, our treatment has a 95% success rate with no burns or pigmentation. In fact, we've done the largest database of skin of color pigmentation in the world. So I think all the hard work and all the failure and all the pain did pay off. But I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to create this channel, to be honest, because there just isn't enough for us. There just is not enough information for us. And I really hope that you find this channel helpful and it answers all the questions that you wish someone could have answered for you. So this is a really in-depth video. We are going to be going in deep into pigmentation for skin of color. I'm going to be answering all your questions. Any thought you ever had on hyperpigmentation is going to happen in this video. So get ready. You need a pen and paper. I'm just going to warn you from the beginning. That would be very helpful to you. So today we're going to be covering why skin of color is different to Caucasian skin, how pigmentation forms, what is the process, the best percentage actives for skin of color for pigmentation, my step-by-step routine that I would recommend that you can just buy over the counter, and at the end, the biggest mistakes made when treating hyperpigmentation of skin of color. It's really important you hang around for that bit because this is something I'm seeing day in, day out, and it just ends in tears with people being more upset than when they started. So if that sounds good to you, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start off with the skin structure and how does pigmentation even form. So here is my little diagram for you, and I'm just going to be very open from the beginning. My handwriting is terrible and the camera is back to front, and so I'm going to have to read it all to you. So this is how it works. Here we've got the epidermis. So this is a skin cell. This is the skin, right? So this is the top layer of skin, the epidermis, and here is the dermis. So in the epidermis, we have this cell called the melanocyte. It looks a little bit like an octopus with lots of legs. Those legs are called dendrites. Now, in this cell is where melanin is produced. This cell is everything. This cell is a difference between skin of color and Caucasian skin, because in skin of color, that cell is large. It is easily triggered. That cell is ready to fire out melanin and start hyperpigmenting, compared to Caucasian skin, where those cells, they've got the same number of cells, but they're tiny. They're so tiny that no matter what you do, you can't trigger the cell. And that is the key difference between skin of color and Caucasian skin, and why we have to be so careful and so educated with our skincare. Okay, so this is your melanocyte, and now these are your keratinocytes. These are your skin cells around it. So melanosomes, little melanin parcels, think of them as little parcels that pass up the melanocyte into the keratinocyte, the skin cells. These cells then take about 30 days to reach the surface. This is where you see the pigmentation. So this is the process in your skin. Now, it's only about 0.5 millimeters to 1 millimeter thick, so it's very thin. And this is the reason that when you peel your skin, you get immediate temporary results. Because what you've basically done is you've just taken away all these keratinocytes that had melanin in them, and suddenly your skin looks brighter. But guess what? Your skin is a living organ. Those cells are going to grow back again. They're going to start from here again, and they're going to grow to the surface. And if you have not fixed your melanocyte and reduced the rate of melanin production in the melanocyte, the pigmentation is going to come back again 30 days later. Okay, and this is why people say, oh, but I did a peel and the pigmentation came back 30 days later. This is why. All you did was to take the top layer of skin away. You haven't treated the root cause, and that's really key, and that's what we do at the Hyperpigmentation Clinic, and that's what everything I ever make for you is all about, is treating this root cause. So it does take longer to do this. Usually it takes about 3 to 6 months to do this, but this is how you get long-term results. So it's important to understand what's going on at the skin level for you to understand what's happening in a practical sense. Okay, so now I can hear you asking me, okay, Dr. V, I understand that melanin is produced in the melanocyte and we see it on the skin surface, but what's actually going on in the melanocyte? How is melanin actually produced? And I have the answer for you. So here we go. So it starts off with your tyrosine. That's your precursor. Tyrosine gets converted to L-DOPA, gets converted to melanin. But the key thing I want you to look at here is how we slow this down. We use tyrosinase inhibitors. So tyrosinase inhibitors just slows down the rate of converting tyrosine to melanin. So tyrosinase inhibitors are everything when it comes to pigmentation and skin of color. If you want me to do a whole video on tyrosinase inhibitors, the best and the worst ones for skin of color, please write down below yes, and I will make that video for you, because that would be an advanced video on this video. But that is everything. You're going to hear tyrosinase inhibitors coming up a lot soon, just because as we put more education out there, more people are talking about it, and we're all becoming more empowered. So I love it. Okay, so Dr. V, so what causes pigmentation? What are the main causes? And how I like to categorize it is into internal and external causes. So your internal causes are things like acne, hormonal pigmentation. So this can happen usually during puberty, or it can happen during pregnancy, or it can happen later on. But hormonal melasma is internal. External are things that happen to your skin. So things like UV damage, any bite, any scratch, any burn, any irritation that's happened from an external injury is your external cause. But regardless, what is going on in your skin is inflammation. Inflammation triggers your melanocyte. Your melanocyte starts to produce too much pigment, too much melanin. That is fundamentally the mechanism of action that's taking place, regardless of the trigger. Okay, so let's talk specifically about melasma, because melasma comes up a lot. So the causes of melasma are UV, but there's a lot of controversy about, well, how exactly does UV lead to pigmentation? And these are the main ways. When you have chronic UV on the skin, it leads to free radicals in the skin. Free radicals can trigger the melanocyte. That's the first way it can happen. The second way is, again, with UV hitting the skin, we get inflammation of the skin. Inflammation means that we have mast cells that are releasing inflammatory mediators, which again trigger the melanocyte. The third thing that tends to happen is we have an increase in enzymes, which actually damages the basement membrane in our skin, and that's what leads to dermal pigmentation. So when we talk about epidermal pigmentation and dermal pigmentation is the worst. It's what we do not want, because once you get dermal pigmentation, it becomes very hard to treat it. It's almost like a tattoo. So this is the reason why we go on and on about sunblock and becoming obsessive about sunblock. It's not something that you wear once a day, or you may or may not wear it. I'm wearing it right now under my makeup, and I will reapply it. I wore it 2 hours ago. I've been filming for 2 hours. I'm going to reapply it straight after this video. I'll reapply it 2 hours after that, and you just become obsessive with your sunscreen. I mean, to the point, I get melasma myself, and so obviously, I've done a lot of reading about melasma, just even for my own face. And what I realized was, when you're wearing your sunscreen, the biggest issue we have is we don't know when it stops working. There's no light that goes off. There's nothing that tells you it stopped working. So it got to the point where I actually created the world's first anti-melasma sunglasses, literally just for my own face, and it's a physical block which covered this whole area. In fact, I'm going to bring it for you to show you. So these are Dr. V sunglasses. They're the world's first anti-melasma sunglasses, and they literally cover the entire zygoma area. Don't forget, any melasma that starts here, which is very common, 80% of melasma starts here as little dots. And then because of cell talk, it spreads to other parts of the face. So the key really is to completely block UV in this area. What I tend to say is, especially when you're driving, or you're out and you're walking, or you're on the beach, this is the best time to wear it, because I wouldn't wear it, for example, when you're running or you're doing something active or you're at a party, but I would wear it for your day-to-day, especially if melasma is your issue. It definitely is one of my issues, and I made one pair for my own face, and then I realized actually I'm not the only one with melasma. Everyone else probably needs a pair too. So the link for Dr. V sunglasses are below. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are the classic treatments for pigmentation. So I've already discussed peels. So glycolic acid peel, high strength, tends to be the favorite. However, it's a tiny molecule, glycolic acid, and it can fly through the skin and lead to hot spots where you literally get burns in those areas. And again, as you know, inflammation equals pigmentation. So unfortunately, I've seen a lot of PIH cases from glycolic acid in my clinic, and then we have to treat that. And I just rather it didn't happen in the first place. So I'd avoid it completely. TCA peels should never ever be done on skin of color under any circumstance, because that leads to severe pigmentation. The other one I really don't like is laser. So the way laser works is it's a energy beam that hits the skin in the form of light. And so you can actually see the light hitting the skin. So the way it works is this energy will heat up the water in the cell, and then the cell will either repair itself or be damaged. And adding energy to skin of color is never a good idea. Whether it's visible light, whether it's infrared light, whether it's UV rays, any form of energy on skin of color can trigger our melanocytes. Laser was not designed for skin of color. It was not designed, with our large melanocytes in mind. And so I would always say, please avoid laser, because again, when people get burned from laser and then they come and see me in the clinic, often it's dermal pigmentation at this point. Often they've actually damaged the basement membrane, and it's now very hard to treat. It's almost like that tattoo that I was talking about with dermal pigmentation. So again, I would just avoid. So the next ingredient that we talk a lot about, and that is hydroquinone. So hydroquinone is a very powerful tyrosinase inhibitor. It's almost like a suppressor. And so actually when you're on it, you get fantastic results and people become addicted to it. Because you're just blocking the melanocyte. You're just stopping melanin from being formed. The problem is this pressure that's happening is too irritating for skin of color. And often what happens when you come off of it, which you have to do 3 months later, otherwise it's going to damage the skin anyway, you come off of it and you have angered that melanocyte. You have now caused rebound pigmentation, where pigmentation often comes back worse than what you originally started with, and often comes back in other areas of the face. It's too aggressive for skin of color, and that's why I'm not a fan. I have heard some YouTubers say that it leads to cancer. This is not true. Trust me, I'm not the biggest fan of hydroquinone. I think you know that if you've watched enough of my videos, but it definitely doesn't lead to cancer. I think that's a bit of fear-mongering and a bit of misinformation. I think that the key thing to know is you can never put an ingredient into cosmetics that can lead to cancer. You're not allowed to. You're just not allowed to. We go through very strict protocols. If you want, I can even show you the manufacturing process, what has to happen in order to ensure the safety of a cream. So yes, I will talk about ingredients that I don't like and ones that are better for skin of color, but nothing is going to be dangerous. Nothing is going to lead to cancer, because you are not allowed to formulate with those ingredients. So that's really important. I think sometimes we can talk in extremes, whereas sometimes we should be talking about nuances. I think it'd be really useful if I did a video that broke down pigmentation for different areas of the body. So if, say, for example, you wanted pigmentation of the knees, pigmentation of the underarms, etc., can you just write down below which videos you want me to make specifically for pigmentation? Okay, so moving on, we're now going to be talking about ingredients. What are the best ingredients for pigmentation in skin of color? So as you know, at the Hyperpigmentation Clinic, I formulate with about 30% actives in our products. So we use extremely high strength actives that are non-irritating. And that really is the key here, because with us, we do require more for very dark pigmentation, but again, one tiny bit of inflammation and it is just not worth it. You shouldn't have even done it from the beginning. So it's a difficult one. My favorite ingredients are, are you ready to write this down? Octadecanoic acid, phytic acid, ferulic acid. I love vitamin A, vitamin C. I love antioxidants, licorice extract, mulberry, niacinamide. These are all excellent ingredients for pigmentation and skin of color. The other one I love is azelaic acid. The way I like to formulate with azelaic acid is actually with glycine, so that you're actually the azelaic acid is not so irritating. It's actually a lot more hydrating to the skin, but you get the same benefits. Again, kojic acid, I feel like kojic acid is too irritating for skin of color. I prefer kojic dipalmitate, which is an ester of kojic acid. So again, it's as effective, but without the irritation. And that is the key here. With every single decision that we make when it comes to formulations for skin of color, you have to think, what is the most effective thing that you can do with the least irritation? That is the key, and that just hasn't been done enough. So even with our Lipex kit, I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard, we created the world's first dark lip pigmentation kit, home care kit for skin of color, which launched in September. And again, we use all the ingredients that I've just discussed today, but honestly, it's very hard to find those list of ingredients in any product because it's actually very expensive to manufacture. And unless the manufacturer has no middleman, so there's no wholesaler, no distributor, as long as they can sell directly to the customer, only then can they manage to create these products, because they are very expensive in the percentages that we're using. Okay, so let me tell you the step-by-step guide to how to treat your pigmentation. So let's start with The Ordinary, because I feel like The Ordinary has really democratized skincare and has made it affordable and means that you get high quality actives with no fragrance. So that's one of the reasons I love The Ordinary. I made a whole series for you on The Ordinary, the best products to buy, the ones to avoid from The Ordinary, and then also the layering videos. I've done one for pigmentation, one for acne, one for anti-aging. So if you really love The Ordinary, it's worth watching those videos. Okay, so let's start off with my step-by-step routine using just The Ordinary. So AM, I would double cleanse. This is very important. The reason being that, don't forget, at nighttime you've worn all your actives, and you have to remove them properly before you go out into the sun, before UV hits your face. So that's a fundamental issue. If people are not washing their faces properly in the morning, they're going to go out with, say, vitamin A on the skin, which will sensitize your skin, which should not happen in skin of color. So please, please double cleanse. So the one I like is the Micellar Gel Wash from Garnier. Okay, so what I do is I've washed with, it is simple, this one. So this is what I do in the morning, followed by COSRX foaming cleanser. So those are two washes that I do in the morning. I would then say, make sure you wear your Cetraban. So you want your fatty emollient. And this is one that I love because my skin feels hydrated all day long. And then you need to follow with your SPF50. There are a couple that I love. The one that I'm wearing right now is this one, which is Color Science. And the other one, in fact, actually, the one I'm wearing right now, which is this one, Neutrogena Sheer Zinc, because I'm right in front of the window. And I'm less than a meter away, and so this one I know I'm going to get much better protection. This one I would wear if I'm going, if it's, you know, it's winter time and the sun's not beaming down as hard, just because this is 12% zinc oxide and this is 21% zinc oxide, so that's the difference. Okay, and then when it comes to the evening, again, I would wash my face, and because you want to remove all the fats. Now imagine all day long you've been applying this to your skin, and so your skin is going to be feeling very greasy, and if you don't wash it properly with double cleansing it, then you're not going to be able to get your actives penetrating nicely into the skin. So that's really important to go back in with this. The thing to note when it comes to double cleansing is I don't want your skin to ever feel squeaky clean. I don't ever want it to feel tight. What I want it to feel is clean and hydrated even after you've washed your face. That's the key. That's a fundamental thing that you have to start to listen to your skin, because it really isn't one size fits all. Sometimes I'll feel like, actually, I just need this because, you know, my skin isn't feeling that oily after a whole day of wearing sunscreen. So listen to your skin. That's really important. Okay, so then layering. How do we layer, Dr. V? How do we layer for hyperpigmentation? I actually made you a whole TikTok on this, by the way. So if you're on TikTok, please can you give me some support? So it's Dr. Vanita Rattan. I did a dance. Like, I really came out my comfort zone to teach you how to layer The Ordinary. But I'm now going to tell you in a professional setting how to do it. And that is 2% alpha hydroxy. 2% alpha arbutin plus hyaluronic acid. That goes on first. Then your niacinamide. Then your magnesium ascorbate phosphate. And I know a lot of you are telling me that Dr. V, it's out of stock. Stop talking about MAP. We can't buy it anymore. So what the other alternative that they have is ascorbyl glucoside, which works in the same way and is the same phase. So that's quite easy to actually interchange. So that's good. Then after that, plus or minus, you can add azelaic acid suspension and then wait 5 minutes, allow the ingredients to penetrate, and then apply your fatty moisturizer, so your Cera-Pep again. Because don't forget, remember the alpha arbutin that we applied had hyaluronic acid in it, and the water has to come from somewhere, and I want it to come from your moisturizer. So I want you to feel hydrated in the morning. Now, the one thing I would always say is when it comes to doing your nightly routine for pigmentation, always do it 2 hours before bed. What I find at the Hyperpigmentation Clinic is, because we have a database of 40,000 skin of color patients who we've treated their pigmentation for, we are able to decipher who gets the best results and why. And there are a few reasons why the people get the best results and others don't. We have a 5% failure rate, we have a 95% success rate. But in order to get the best results, you have to do certain things. And one of the things is you apply your nighttime routine 2 hours before bed. When you apply it just before bed, it comes off on your sheets and you don't get maximum benefit. And with us, we need all the help we can get when it comes to pigmentation. We have to do everything correctly, right down to our sunscreen, to be honest. You know, even if you go out in the sun, I'm sure you know, if you've had melasma, you go out in the sun for 5 minutes and your melasma will be worse the next day. The UV does not forgive our skin. You know, we have to be vigilant when it comes to protecting our skin. Okay, so a lot of you always say, oh, Dr. V, I can't do all this layering and all these products. So what I wear is the PharmaClinic's Lighten X Gold. It has all the actives that I need for my melasma. And I apply that at nighttime. PharmaClinics is my family's company. This is where I learned to formulate. This is where I learned to use very high strength actives at high percentages and to combine them. I think the hardest thing on my journey actually was learning to combine strong acids so that they were able to manage the stability test. When we do the stability test, your product has to be left on a shelf for 3 months and make sure it doesn't split. The other thing that we do is a shock test where it goes from hot to cold to hot to cold to make sure, again, it doesn't split. And that is extremely hard to do with acids and high strength actives. And that's actually where I learned to do it, was with PharmaClinics. What I'm noticing more and more is by doing these reviews is that actually there is very little for skin of color when it comes to pigmentation. So imagine we created the world's first lip pigmentation kit in September. Then we're about to launch the world's first periorbital pigmentation kit, dark circles kit for skin of color. That's never been done before. We do a professional grade treatment at the clinic, but a home care kit for skin of color, dark circles, has never existed before. So that launches next. And after that, we're creating the world's first bikini pigmentation kit for skin of color. Then I'm creating a whole host of kits specifically for skin of color. And I'm really excited about doing it, but I'm also a little bit sad that it hasn't been done before, to be honest. This wasn't really meant to be my path. I thought my path was, you know, opening up our clinics and helping everyone in the UK with pigmentation. But when we started this YouTube channel, I honestly didn't realize just how much need there was globally. And so I pivoted and I thought, if the big companies are not going to do this, if they're not going to look at us and give us what we need, I already know that I have the information and I've done the clinical trials for me to do it. And so if they're not going to do it, I will do it for you. And even with our lip pigmentation kit, we sent that off for independent clinical studies, and that came back 24 candidates of skin of color with lip pigmentation. 100% of them saw a reduction in their lip pigmentation with 0% reactions. For me, that was everything. That trial had never been done before. Can you imagine, like, how is it that our skincare issues haven't been addressed before? So my aim really is to make everything that you want me to make, help in any way I can help. If there's any ideas of kits that you really want that don't exist, then please can you write them down below and I will make them for you. If it already exists, I will point you in that direction and tell you to buy from that person. This is really just to make sure that we are covered and we have everything that we need. Even my daughter, for example, so my daughter is 7 years old and I get asked a lot by the other mums, okay, my daughter or my son has had an accident and they've cut themselves or they've got a chickenpox scar, what do I put on it? And guess what? There is no tyrosinase inhibiting cream that's been designed for children. And so I discussed this with my daughter and I said, shall we do this together? Would this be something that you would like to work with mummy on? And create the world's first scar cream for children of color. And she loved the idea. So again, that's going to be a world's first and we're going to launch that next year as well. So again, anything you can think of that hasn't been done yet, I will 100% do it for you. And thank you so much for supporting me and believing in me and telling me what you want, you know. I just feel like we're working together in collaboration and I'm honestly, I couldn't be more grateful for you, for your love of me. I feel like I might even cry a little bit. I'm just very grateful for all your support in me. And getting to the end of this video, I just realized this is a really long video and we've gone through a lot of science. So well done on this. Any other videos you want me to make, please write it down below. Please do download your free guide for skin of color. I've put a lot of love into it. The ingredients to buy, the ingredients to avoid, products to buy, products to avoid, in the description box below. And any other products you want me to make for you, write it below. And any other videos you want me to make, please write it below. Please do follow me on Instagram at the Hyperpigmentation Clinic and at SkincareByDrv and on TikTok, which is Dr. Vanita Rattan. Thank you very much.